This is Bordy Morales with my 2 cents, and today we're attacking DEI. I'm going to break down the myth that's been going online of what it is, what it isn't. So let's get to it. So the way they've been classifying DEI on the social network is basically, you know what, diversity first. If you're a person of color, you got the job. Doesn't matter your qualifications. We are only looking for diversity. That's it. Doesn't matter your experience. Hey, you're looking for a job? Even if you mow the lawn and you're a minority, it doesn't really matter. We need a minority. We need a person of diversity. We're going to make you a pilot. Hey, the local hospital is hiring. Guess what? We need surgeons right away. Oh, you were a cook and you're a woman? You're a minority? No problem. We can make you into a surgeon. You ever cash a check before? And you're Hispanic? Oh, wait. We need a new bank manager for our bank. Guess what, Jose? You qualified because you're Latino. We're going to make you the bank manager. You see how ridiculous this sounds? And look, I get it. There are jobs you can mess up and still get the job. I mean, your job could be to own a casino where people actually bring you their money to gamble, and somehow you can bankrupt that casino. I mean, you could have a company where you sell steaks, you could have an airline, you can have your own vodka, you can have your own magazine, and you can have a board game, and you can screw all those up. But wait, there's more. You could even have a university, and thousands of students could sue you saying it was misleading. You decide to settle out of court for $25 million. I'm not saying it was a scam, but 25 million, that's not a sorry, that's my bad with interest. Hold. This is not to bash the guy. This is basically trying to make a point. After all the failures and everything that went wrong and all the money he had to pay out to settle, I'm saying that to say this. Regardless of all that, and no political experience, he still became the President of the United States. And any one of us, regardless of color, even though there's only been 2 colored presidents in the United States history, anyone could be president. That is a right given to all Americans. To get these jobs of the image you see here, you need experience. You need training. Nobody with no airline, no hospital, is going to give you, no bank, is going to hand over everything to someone with no experience just because of their skin color. Okay? This doesn't happen in the real world. Let me break down what DEI really is and where it started. DEI means giving people from different backgrounds a fair chance and making sure they feel included. It started after the Civil War movement in the 1960s to stop discrimination. This is not something that started, a couple of weeks ago, a couple of years ago. This has been around for a while. Now I'm going to tell you what it's not. It's not about hiring unqualified people. It's not about lowering standards. It's not giving jobs because of race. It's not replacing merit or experience or forcing companies to pick certain people. Okay, at the end of the day, DEI is about making sure people have a fair shot. DEI isn't about who skips the line, it's who gets in the line. Now, one of the things I get is I get a lot of videos sent to me to do these videos on and to fact check them. And one of the videos I got about basically DEI and spreading misinformation is a video from Charlie Kirk. Now, before you guys all jump on me about Charlie Kirk, and I'm not attacking Charlie Kirk. What happened to him should have never happened to him, and anybody that uses their right for free speech, that should never happen to them. at all. That is wrong. With that being said, let's get into what he said about DEI and let's see if it's factual or is it spreading misinformation. Okay, so this video automatically starts off like this, like what the media claims he said and what he actually said. So, those of you that don't know what the word claim means, let's look it up. It's basically to state or assert that something is the case, typically without providing evidence or proof. So basically saying, you know what, he really didn't say this. They're going to break it down with what he actually meant or what he really didn't say. But did he actually say that? Let's do some research and see. Oh, wait, here's a video.
And that's why I think this United story and the DEI story hits so hard, because we've all been in the back of a plane when the turbulence hits or when you're flying through a storm and you're like, I'm so glad I saw the guy with the right stuff and the square jaw get into the cockpit before we took off. And I feel better now.
What do you mean by right stuff? He had a square jaw and the right guy got into the cockpit? Captain Racist over here. How do you know he has the right stuff? Just because he's white? That makes no sense. And the fact that he said we all sat in the back of the plane when we hit turbulence. Who's we? I've never seen my pilot of any flight. And I've flown dozens of times. That never hits my mind. I never think about the pilot. I just know that there's a pilot in there. Whether he's white, blue, purple, yellow, I don't care. It's a pilot. And I've seen people fly, and I worked at the airport. Nobody has ever asked me, hey, do you know what color the pilot is? I want to make sure that he's white because he has the right stuff. So let's go what actually causes plane crashes. The number one thing that causes plane crashes, here are they. Human error. Not by race, by human. Pilot's mistakes. Miscommunication. Poor decision under pressure. This is the number one cause. And 90% of the pilots that have crashed planes have been white. This is just facts. Now, yes, the majority of pilots, 90%, are white. Also, number 2, mechanical failures, engine problem, system malfunction, maintenance issues. Number 3, storms, ice, wind shear, poor visibility. So again, yes, there is a majority of white pilots. They dominate this field. But when plane crashes happen, it's human error. It's miscommunication. It's not about race. You ever taken an Uber? You know, it's about 1 in 100 people per year are involved in a car crash with Uber. You have a better chance of getting in a car crash with Uber than you do flying a plane. 1 in 100. Do you know about what's the statistic for you in a plane? For you to get in a plane crash? 1 into 10 to 11 million per flight. Those are your statistics. Yet, do you ask, if the driver for the Uber is DEI hire? Do you even know how to pronounce his first name, let alone his last name? Nope. But you give him $40 to go about 10 blocks, and you don't even think about it. He could be a psychopath and drive you right off the bridge. But you didn't check for DEI, right? As long as he could get you there, doesn't really matter.
You want to go thought crime? Like, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well,
that's the
you
game
wouldn't have
theory
done
I was
that.
talking
You
about.
wouldn't have. You wouldn't have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't
that's
have done
not
that
who I
before.
am. That's
No.
not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has
but
created.
I'm
So he did say it. And he's saying, well, that's not me. That's not who I am. You said it. That's how you feel. That's who you are. But again, there's another video trying to explain, okay, that's not what he said, but this is what he actually said. So let's get into that video.
All right, let me tell you exactly what I said,
Sure
okay?
thing, thank you.
So this was in response, first and foremost, to United Airlines saying that half of all their new pilots that they're going to hire are going to be women or people of color.
This is right here what United actually said. They're talking about a school. Over the next decade, United will train 5,000 pilots who will be guaranteed a job with United after they complete the requirements of the program. And our plan, here is where he gets to have half of them to be women and people of color. So they never said half of their pilots to be women and people of color. They never said that. And you're probably saying, well, 2,500, that could be like all their pilots, that's a lot. Currently, United has over 18,000 pilots. Currently. So 2,500 is not half of 18,000.
Currently, they're 15%.
Okay.
So they want to go from 15% to 50%. A conversation then ensued about how every time affirmative action is employed, standards have to be lowered. There's not a single instance where that does not occur.
Okay, that's not how it works. Affirmative action doesn't lower standard. It just gives more people a fair shot of meeting them. Listen, pilots still have to pass FAA requirements. Doctors still pass licensing exam. Lawyers still have to pass the bar. The standards do not change. Even if me as a Latino, I want to be a lawyer, I still have to pass the bar. In many fields, requirements are set by independent licensing bodies. And that remains fixed, regardless of who applies. Excuse me. Saying that standards are lower every single time with no exceptions, and that there's not a single instant where that doesn't happen is a broad claim, with no proof behind it. He's not providing evidence, he's just asserting it. And it only takes one clear example where standards stay the same to show that the claim is incorrect. So again, you still have to pass the bar if you want to be a lawyer, even if they're hiring Latinos in that law firm.
So then I said, boy, if I see a black pilot, I'm now going to wonder, is that individual qualified, or were they selected because of their race? But that's not who I am, but this makes me think this way. And I stand completely by that statement.
Okay.
Secondly, let me just finish.
Sure, yeah, sorry.
DEI and affirmative action, what it does is it lowers the merit, it lowers the threshold of standards, and increases things that do not matter, such as skin color and ethnic background. So that is what I said.
Okay.
Now, a more important question to ask me is, Charlie, do you believe that black pilots can be qualified? Of course, any individual can be qualified. I want a hiring quota and program that only cares about qualification, not skin color. And thirdly, I would say, why does United Airlines care so much about the color of the pilots that are flying them? Shouldn't they just want the best pilots? When you guys are flying from Vegas to Dallas or Vegas to Chicago, are you going to feel safer or more comfortable when you hit turbulence if you have a diverse pilot? Or if you have a cockpit of the most qualified people that are there that have proven that they know how to land and fly planes?
So what he's saying sounds strong because he's debating someone, but they're not really fact-checking him. But that reply that he's giving is built on a misunderstanding of what DEI actually is. DEI does not replace qualifications with race. It does not lower licensing standards in fields like aviation. The requirements are set by regulators. And they don't change based on who you are. Every pilot still has to meet the same FAA standards. They got to go to training. They have to have flight hours, exam, certification. There is no separate or easier version of those requirements. So the idea that DEI lowers the standards doesn't match how these systems actually work. What DEI does is expand access. They reach people who may not have the same opportunity or exposure, but who can still meet the exact same standards. And when he says, do you want a diverse cockpit or the most qualified pilots? That's a false choice. The goal is qualified pilots all the time, 100% of the time. Diversity doesn't replace that. It widens the pool of people who can actually become qualified. Also, asking whether a black pilot is qualified because their race assumes that they didn't meet the requirements, even though they had to pass the same standards as everyone else. If someone says standards are lower every single time, with no exceptions, then the burden is on them to prove that. He hasn't given any proof of that, in this reply at all. So without evidence, that's not a fact. It's just an assumption. Now, the question isn't whether someone is diverse or qualified. The reality is they have to be qualified. So any of these positions, whether you're a doctor, surgeon, pilot, and everything else, you do have to be qualified. No airline, anywhere. Have you ever paid for a plane ticket? Do you know how much it costs? Thousands of dollars sometimes to fly from one place to another. Do you think for 1 second that an airline is going to put someone up there and mess up their business and get sued millions of dollars just because they want to put a diverse pilot up there? No. Doesn't make business sense. And it also does not make sense for you to risk thousands of people's lives with someone that is not qualified. So again, this has been Mori Morales from My 2 Cents. I hope you enjoyed this video and now understand what DEI actually is.